Is man arrested for Virginia Beach murders a serial killer? On the morning of Saturday, June 30th, 1973, the bodies of two white females were discovered in an oceanfront cottage in Virginia Beach. The young women, both 19, were Lynn Seathaler, left, and Janice Pietropola of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was apparent they had fought desperately for their lives. There was a tremendous amount of violence that took place inside a little cottage, one detective said at the time. The medical examiner's reports indicated Seathaler had been strangled, shot twice in the cheek and head, and her throat had been slashed with a broken wine bottle. Pietropola had been strangled, shot 3 times in the right side of her head, and there was evidence of rape. 45 years, 9 months, and 8 days later, law enforcement officers appeared at the home of Ernest Broadnax in Queens, New York, and arrested him for the murders. The 80-year-old black man is now facing 2 counts of second-degree murder and 1 count of rape. The NYPD assisted detectives from the Virginia Beach Police Department in locating, apprehending, and collecting forensic evidence from Ernest Jean Broadnax. Sergeant Jessica McRory, an NYPD spokeswoman, told the press. She did not elaborate on what sort of technology was used to link Broadnax to the killings. Kevin Wallace, 60, a neighbor who knows Broadnax, said the police brought the accused killer a bottle of water when they came to arrest him, and he wasn't handcuffed when they let him out. They gave it the water to him, dressed him up, and he went quietly. He went very quietly, Wallace added. He knew he did it. They couldn't find him, and all of a sudden, they found him. Detectives also collected forensic evidence from the accused's apartment. They came and knocked on his door. They asked him if he was Ernest, and he said yes, Wallace continued. Then they said, "Mr. Ernest, we have a bottle of water." He was a quiet man, very quiet, stayed to himself. Another acquaintance who lived in the same veterans housing development said he believed as Broadnax got older, he was looking for forgiveness. He would tell me about what he did in the past. He talked about doing time. I thought they were what you call war stories. Broadnax, who walks with a cane, was arraigned Tuesday night and waived extradition to Virginia. His lawyer, Peter James Lohman, declined to comment. The accused is being held in a city jail pending transfer. Broadnax has a long criminal history, having been arrested at least 14 times on charges of burglary, assault, and weapons possession. He served at least 2 stints in New York prisons, including 3 years for burglary, beginning in 1999, and another 8 for assault starting in 2006. The assault conviction was for the 2005 beating of a man with a metal pipe, during which Broadnax shattered the victim's arm. He was released from prison in 2013. Nevertheless, some were surprised by the arrest. "That's not the man we know," the assistant pastor at the Second Chance Deliverance Church said. He was humbled by life. Seathaler and Pietropola were high school friends who had graduated the previous year. At the time of their Virginia Beach vacation, Seathaler was working as a secretary, and Pietropola was employed as an editorial assistant at a financial magazine. They were due to return to Pittsburgh the day their bodies were found by a motel employee who went to their cottage to see why they hadn't checked out. The killer gained access to the unit by removing a window screen. The contents of the women's handbags were dumped on the floor of their room, but investigators did not believe robbery was a motive. Police were never able to determine if the attack was random or if the killer saw the girls somewhere, followed them to find out where they were staying, and planned the attack. Missing and murdered women. In the 1970s and early 80s, 10 other women disappeared or were murdered on or near the oceanfront in Virginia Beach. In July 1974, just 15 blocks from the motel where Seathaler and Pietropola were killed, 24-year-old Beverly Christensen was found strangled in her apartment, and Brenda Joy Bancroft, 24, was murdered on Christmas Eve. 2 years later, in May 1976, the corpse of a headless, handless female washed up in Chesapeake Bay. She has never been identified. Then 3 young women simply vanished. Judy Ann Sylvester, 22, was last seen in January 1977, and 6 months later, in July, 24-year-old Lorraine Zimmerman was reported missing. In August of 1979, Barbara Jean Monaco, 17, disappeared. The beaten and strangled body of a fourth woman, Alice Eskew, 18, was discovered at First Landing State Park in September 1979. The murders of attractive young white women continued into the 1980s. The bodies of Joanne Zwingman and Christine Pilchak were found floating in the Atlantic on August 19, 1983. 2 years later, in July 1985, Rafaela Bryant, a 20-year-old waitress, was strangled and left in a burning car. Though many suspect a serial killer was operating in Virginia Beach, the cases have never been formally linked. "You still gotta connect the dots," explained former Virginia Beach Police Captain William Hayden. Those dots were never able to be firmly connected. What did match were the victims themselves. It's been a focus, but there has never been anything to flesh it out, to bring it where there is any single factor that runs through all of the cases, except for the fact that they are young white females between the ages of 18 and 25. A Virginia Beach police spokesperson confirmed, "At this time, Broadnax has not been implicated in the murders or disappearances of any of the other 10 women."